Did you know that a group of penguins walking together on the ice is called a waddle? Well, I didn't, and now my life is infinitely better just knowing that simple fact. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel today. My name is Carly, and today we're going to be showcasing a game that is currently live over on Kickstarter right now. This game is Waddle, and it's being produced from Allplay. With this crowdfunding campaign, there are also 3 more games that Allplay is going to kind of be grouping together for this campaign. So there's Waddle, Twinkle Twinkle, and then Merchants of Andromeda. I actually was able to get my hands on a copy of Twinkle Twinkle, so if you are interested in kind of checking out my thoughts on that game, my preview for that game, I will make sure to also link to that video in the description below. If you are new to this channel though, this is a Kickstarter preview, and typically what I do for my previews is I go into kind of a general explanation of how the game operates and plays before jumping into kind of what I enjoyed about this game and who I would recommend it for. I do want to briefly mention that this is very much a prototype copy of the game. I was working with prototype rules, prototype components, so everything is subject to change. However, I know this is pretty close to what they are anticipating the final version of this game to look like. So again, I just kind of want to reference you over to that crowdfunding campaign so you can kind of see more finalized versions of what they are anticipating or hoping for this game. I also want to give a really quick shout out to Allplay and thank them for sponsoring this video for you today. In Waddle Waddle, oh my goodness, I just did it again. It's not Waddle Waddle, it's Waddle. I'm so sorry if I keep making that mistake. I am so sorry. I know it's just Waddle. I got mixed up with Twinkle Twinkle, okay? Don't come at me too hard. In Waddle, players will be strategically placing their penguins around fishing holes to form groups and claim fish to score the most points. Will you place a penguin to score or try to manipulate the tricky marble turn-based order track? With this being a Kickstarter preview, we're gonna go ahead and kind of jump into my general overview of how this game operates and plays. The game comes with 1 turn track, 5 marbles, 1 scoreboard, 1 dry erase marker, 20 map tiles, 100 single penguin tokens, 20 per player, 10 double penguin tokens, 2 per player, and 5 player aids. To set up the game, you're going to take these 20 map tiles that you have, and you're going to arrange them on the board. If you are playing with less than 5 players, there will be some of these map tiles that you inherently don't use. Just for the sake of this game, we're going to pretend that we're playing a 5-player game. So we will take all of the map tiles in this case, and again, arrange them on the board. Now, the way you set up these tiles doesn't really matter. For your first game, it's kind of recommended that you just set them all together kind of in a pile, but in future games you actually can kind of arrange, you can make little gaps, you can kind of make little peninsulas just to kind of make the game more interesting. Again, we're just kind of setting up just kind of based on somebody playing this game for the first time, so we're just going to put the board like so. One key difference between this prototype copy and your finalized copy of the game that I just want to mention, just so you're aware when you're viewing this video, are these little fish tokens. These came to me as tokens, but in the finalized version of the game, I believe that they're actually going to be printed on to the tiles themselves. So just kind of be aware of that as you're looking at these videos. Each player will then take a player aid along with the 22 penguins of their matching color. And I just kind of want to point out that all the penguins, like for every different player color, it's like a different breed of penguins, and I love them so much. Something else you're going to do at the startup though is you're going to assemble this little marble track, which is so cool. We're going to kind of touch on how this operates in just a minute, but essentially what this does is it just kind of helps with turn order. So everybody will grab their penguins along with their marble and place it on this track here. And that's essentially setup. Kind of coming in now to what you're going to be doing on your turn and how the game operates is based on this little marble track here, players will have the chance or opportunity to place penguins onto these little icebergs or pass. So very briefly, I'm just going to kind of walk through what happens. So the green marble is at the bottom of the track, which means it's the green player's turn. On this kind of like icy board in front of you, there are these various fishing holes, and in every single fishing hole there is numbered 1 all the way up to 20 if you're playing a full 5-player game. You're going to start the game on number 1 and continue all the way up to number 20. The way you lay out this board is going to be different every game, so those numbers are going to kind of shift and change based on the way that the ice is laid out for that game. But it's the green player's turn. We're starting with the first fishing hole. So green player is going to decide to place one of their penguins in this slot. When you are placing penguins, you have to place your penguin on an iceberg that is adjacent or touching that the current fishing hole spot. At every game of this I've played, there's always those like 1 or 2 really great spots that everybody's kind of fighting over and trying to get. So for example, if green went right here, yes, it's touching number 1 and kind of like that first watering hole, but it actually is also touching a secondary fishing hole. And why that is important is because in order to claim the fish at the end of the game, or claim those fish that are on some of these fishing hole spots, is you actually have to have majority of control around that fishing hole. So where green just placed here, green actually currently has control over these 2 fishing hole areas. So now this is kind of where this marble track comes into play, because green will actually take his marble and place it at the top. We're still working at the first watering hole because we will only move on to 2 once all of the slots around the first watering hole have been filled. So red's going to go ahead and place here. Again, he's on an iceberg that is touching number 1, but it actually on the opposite side is also touching number 20. So right now for the first watering hole area, red and green are currently tied, but then green also has control over 4 as of right now, and red has control over 20. That was red's turn, so now the marble will go up to the top, coming down, and now it's purple's turn. Just for the sake of an example, I'm going to show what happens if a player chooses not to place on this main board over here. Let's pretend purple wanted to pass. What would happen is purple would take the marble and actually bring their marble over onto this secondary track. This secondary track is actually going to be the turn order for the following round, or when we move onto watering hole 2, which is right here. So play will keep going like this, right? So orange will decide to go here, yellow will then go, so then yellow will decide to go here. And so this will keep going until all players pass, or until every single spot that is touching the first watering hole, because we're working on 1, are filled. There is something important to note that I kind of want to explain. So let's pretend that all players decided to pass. So right now with watering hole 1, there are almost all the spots are filled, but there is 1 spot left. Let's pretend nobody else wanted that 1 spot. So again, according to turn order, everybody can choose to pass. If there is 1 person remaining and there still are slots available that need to be filled, the 1 person remaining has to fill all of the slots with their penguins. So even if yellow doesn't really want to right now, yellow has to fill the remaining slot with their penguin because they were the last person left in the first round. After that final move, 1 is now complete. So now yellow will move over here, and now this is going to be the turn order for the following round. Second round, so now we're moving on to watering hole number 2. And again, because the marbles are placed this way, we're going to start with the purple player. It is at this point that purple could choose to pass again, ensuring that she'll be first when it comes to round 3, or purple could choose to place. And this will continue to go round and round until every single watering hole is completely filled. After placing that final penguin on that final watering hole, then you will proceed to endgame scoring. Players will score every single fish that their penguins have majority around on the individual fishing holes. When you are scoring up your fish kind of in these ponds, sometimes you have really big ponds that might have multiple fish in it. So if you are playing a 2-player game, it's just whoever has majority gets all the fish. If you're playing a 3 to 5 player game, whoever has majority will get the highest number of fish, second would be the second highest, and potentially on for however many fish is in a particular fishing hole. But that's not all, because you are also actually going to be scoring your waddles. Each unbroken group that you have of your penguins is considered a waddle, and you will go through and score up accordingly. So for example, if you have a waddle of 3 over here, it will be worth 6 points, and if you have a waddle of 8, big long chain of 8 penguins over on this side of the board, you will score 36 points for that. So kind of coming back to why placement is so important is because yes, you obviously want the fish and are fighting for the fish that are in the watering holes, but primarily you are trying to place to try to connect your penguins. You want really big groups of your penguins on this board. And so that's why kind of like changing up this board when you first set up the game, or kind of setting out peninsulas or gaps, it can actually make the game pretty tricky, because that's just less and less waddles that you're more likely to get, or you have to be really competitive over those areas. After players have scored up their waddles along with their fish, whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. So I really hope that kind of gives you a general idea of what you're going to be doing on your turn. Essentially, this is kind of an area control game where you're trying to maintain control over areas while also trying to make connections from your previously placed penguins to new placed penguins. With the overview out of the way, we're going to pivot for a moment as I kind of share the stuff that I liked about this game and who I would recommend this game for. Something that I really enjoyed about this game just right off the bat, like the very first time I sat down, pulled it open and played it, was I loved how much this board can change. Essentially, you are just doing the same thing, right? But the fact that you are able to kind of like construct things the way that you want and kind of make it more tricky or kind of just more complicated to form your waddles. I just liked that variability that these tiles added. It could have just been a board, right? They could have just had a basic fold out board. I really liked how they did it this way. It just kind of made it exciting every time you jumped in. But aside from the board, let's kind of get into the gameplay now. I love area control games. I just think they're fun, and this just kind of feels just like a streamlined, kind of simple, just very like basic area control game. Literally on your turn, you're choosing to place a penguin or pass. And sometimes that passing action is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than actually placing a penguin. Because if you are able to successfully pass before everybody else, then you know that, okay, now going into turn 5, I know for sure that I'm going to be able to claim that spot, which I really need to A, help with my waddle, but B, also help me maintain control over that particular fishing hole. And when you've played this game a couple of times, you'd be surprised at how fast people are actually passing. Like, people are passing fast because you really want to set yourself up, but you also don't want to do it too much, because if you do, then somebody will have the opportunity to just get a big waddle out, right? If everybody chose to pass at a certain watering hole, well then whoever's left just gets a 4-point waddle just because of that. So it just has that good kind of like interaction between players. This game is for 2 to 5 players. I really preferred it kind of more at that higher player count because it just made the fighting over the watering holes just so much harder. With the 2-player game, it kind of just felt a little bit too back and forthy, honestly. So I really liked it at that 3, 4, 5 player count. And for just a second, I just need to talk about the production of this marble track. I loved this so much. It was so fun. Oh gosh, oh no, the marbles! It's okay, I got it back, don't worry about it. But I know, I loved this. It was such like a clever way to keep track of player count. I mean, maybe some other games have done this that I just haven't personally seen, but I've never seen this before. It works so well, so smoothly. Oh my goodness, the marbles are going crazy. But it just was awesome. It was just such a clever way to keep track of player count, right? Because then if somebody passed, they could just easily bring their little marble over onto this side, and then you just keep going, right? And you never ever get confused with player count or player turn order, which you easily could. Like when we were actually playing our game for half a second, I was like, could we actually play this game without this? Because it would just be, I'm sure you could, but it would just be really chaotic. So I loved this little aspect. It just had that fun kind of like tactical element to it of rolling your little marbles down. I just genuinely enjoyed the puzzle of trying to obviously maintain control over the fishing holes, but while also trying to connect your waddles, and trying to, again, think ahead into future turns, trying to plan out when it's advantageous to go first, when it's advantageous to maybe let an opponent go first. Like most Allplay games, this just kind of like fits into that easy to teach, really like simple gameplay, but has a decent amount of strategy going on. That's kind of where Allplay games typically hit in my collection, and that's why I love them so much, because they don't take a lot of overhead to teach. Once I've played a game, I really very rarely have to ever go back into a rule book to like relearn how to play an Allplay game, because they're just streamlined and simple. And this definitely hits with that. So if you enjoy Allplay games, you kind of like the simplicity of like their smaller kind of box line, I would absolutely recommend looking into this game and checking it out and seeing if it would be one for you. I honestly think this is a great addition to the Allplay line. So if anything that we've talked about in this video today sounds interesting to you, or if this sounds like one that would be a good fit for your collection, again, I just want to reference you over to the current crowdfunding campaign that is going on for Waddle. All of the links and information will be in the description below. Again, I wanted to give Allplay a huge shout out for sponsoring this video for you today. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. It really helps support us in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.